All right, today we're going to be learning about Pythagorean theorem. And I'm going to make this video because I could not get our Zoom from the live class today to convert. The video wouldn't play. I don't know what I did wrong, something. So now you get an extra explanatory video. So we're going to be doing Pythagorean theorem. And some of you may or may not remember what this is, but what this says is if you have a triangle that is a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared is going to equal c squared. And again, that only works on one type of triangle, must be a right triangle. And then if you have two side lengths, you can find out the third side length by using this formula. So what are our a, b, and our c? That's the very first thing you're going to do before you solve anything. Start by labeling your C. Find your right angle in your triangle and draw a line to the opposite side, okay? This is always going to be your C. Then your other two are your triangle legs, and they can be labeled either A or B, or you could switch them, it doesn't matter. So your C is also known as your hypotenuse. Okay, and these are the legs. All right, let's try some actual Pythagorean theorem problems here. All right, what if you have a right triangle like this, and we have this one, this side is 4 and this side is 3, and here we have x. And your instructions say solve for x. So the first thing you're going to do is say, okay, do I have a right triangle? I do, it's marked. So the next thing you're going to do is label your A, B, and C. Go to your right angle, draw a line to the side across from the right angle. That's going to be your C. So x is going to be our C. And then these two here are our legs, and they can be either A or B. So now you're going to write your formula. We know a squared plus b squared is going to equal c squared. So let's plug our values in. Here we have 4 squared, and b is 3, so 3 squared equals our c squared, which we're going to replace with x. So now let's solve this. 4 squared is 4 times 4, so that's 16, plus 3 squared, which is 3 times 3, which is 9, equals our x squared, and we're still trying to solve for x. Add these up. We have 25 equals x squared. How do you get rid of a squared exponent? How do you get rid of an exponent? Well, you take the root of it. So we're going to square root both sides. And if you take the square root of a squared value, that cancels out. So we're just left with x. And here, the square root of 25 is 5. So 5 equals x. So our value here for x is 5. Let's look at another one. All right, how about something like this? Let's see here. We have a right triangle, and we're going to go with, this is not drawn to scale, by the way, 5 and 12, and we don't know what x is. We want to solve for x. The first thing you want to do is find your right angle, draw a line to the side across from it. That's going to be your hypotenuse, which is going to equal your C. Label your legs now as either A or B, and set up your equation. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. What's our A? 5. 5 squared plus 12 squared equals, replace c with x, x squared. 5 squared is 25. 12 squared is 144, and that equals x squared. So we're going to add these two together now. So we're going to end up with 169 equals, whoops, I'm getting ahead of myself, x squared. We need to get rid of the squared value. So we are going to cancel it out by taking the square root of both sides. If you take the square root of a squared value, that cancels out and we're left with x equals 13 because the square root of 169 is 13. Okay, let's make it a little harder now. All right. Let's try another one. All right, there's our right triangle. And we have 10, 8, and we don't know x. So the first thing you're gonna do is what? Label your hypotenuse. Find your C. Find your right angle. Draw a line to the opposite side. That is your C. So 10 is our C. Now you can label your legs as either A or B and set up your equation. So we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Plug in your numbers. 8 squared plus, well here for b we have x. X squared equals, c we have 10, 10 squared. All right, let's work it out. We have 64 plus x squared equals 100. Well, let's subtract 64. So we have x squared equals 36. So we need to get rid of this squared, this exponent. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. And we're left with x equals, x equals 6. All right, let's try another one similar to this. Okay, let's go with, again, not drawn to scale. Trying to find one I can do in my head. Okay, let's go with 8 and 17. I can't do that one in my head, 17 times 17, but that's okay. And this is x. Okay, so first thing you do is label. Find your right angle, draw a line to the side across, that's your C. Label, here we made x b last time, let's make it a. Label each of the legs, set up your equation, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Plug in your numbers, 17 squared equals 8 squared plus a squared. Well, here, plug in x. There we go. Okay, well, let's do this one. I know that's 64. X squared plus 64 equals, let's do 17 times 17 here. 7 times 7, 49. Okay, 289. All right. So now we're going to subtract 64 from each side, right? So we have x squared equals 225. Okay, take the square root of each side so that we cancel out this exponent. So we have x equals 15. Square root of 225 is 15. So your x here equals 15. Okay, let's make it a little bit harder. All right, what if you have one that's a decimal? Let me see if I can get a calculator on this computer. Okay, so what if you have one that looks like this. Here's your right angle. And this is 7, and this is x, and this is 14. So a couple things are different about this problem. First, so far, all the examples we've done have been whole numbers, correct? And when you have a triangle and you have to use Pythagorean theorem on it to solve for a side, and you end up with 3 whole numbers, that's what's called a Pythagorean triple. However, most of the problems that we're actually going to be working with when we get to the circles unit are not going to be Pythagorean triples. A few may, but most will not. So you're going to end up with either a root form, a simplified square root form for your answer here, or you're going to end up with a decimal if they say you can estimate. So I want to actually work some that will be like that. So the first thing we're going to do is label each side. Find your right angle, draw a cross, and label. Okay, so we know that this 14 is C. So these can be A, these legs can be A and B. All right, so we're going to have our A squared plus B squared is C squared, and let's plug our numbers in. We have 14 squared here. B is 7 squared, and here we have, for A, we're gonna plug in X, so we have X squared. Okay, let's write what we know. X squared plus 49 equals 196. All right, so now we're going to subtract 49 from each side to get the variable by itself. So x squared is going to equal 147. All right, we need to get rid of this exponent, so we're going to take the square root of both sides. So we have x equals the square root of 147. Now, for this problem, the directions for this problem do not say estimate x. So it says find the exact value for x. So let's see, well, I'm going to put the 2 options up here. Exact value is 1, and estimate is your other option. If it says estimate, you go type this in your calculator, square root of 147, and you're going to get like a decimal that goes on for like 9 or 10 places, or it may go on for more. And so maybe you then round to the nearest tenths or hundredths. That would be an estimation, because whatever you do and you round, if you square what you've rounded, you will not come out with this. It will not be the same answer. So to get the exact answer, you're going to need to leave it in square root form, but you're going to need to simplify this root. I put up a short video. It's like 3.5 or 4 minutes long on Google Classroom that goes over simplifying roots. It's just a few more examples to help you be a little more comfortable with that. So to simplify this root, we're going to break up this number under here. And what you're going to do is you talk yourself through it each time. It's not that difficult. Start with your perfect squares. Well, you have 4, right? Because 2 times 2 is 4. You have 9, because that's 3 times 3. You have 16, because that's 4 times 4. So this is pretty large. So right now you know it's not 2, 3, or 4. It's not 5, because that's 25. Yeah, there's 6, there's 7, 8, 9. What's the square root of 9? 81. So already, if we broke this up, 81 would be too big. So what we're actually going to break it up is square root of 49 times square root of 3. Okay? So if you multiply 49 and 3, you're going to get 147. And what we have right here is a perfect square that we can then pull out. So this would actually go to x equals 7, right? This goes to 7. The square root of 49 is 7 times the square root of 3. And this gives you your exact value. And this would be your answer here. All right. I'm going to stop the video. Please go to part 2 to continue.